I do want to point this out before we finish up, because we were talking before the show and discussing how this event in Boston today has kind of been covered, and we've kind of gotten, I think we have gotten most of our information about the incident from social media and from the different people that have been tweeting about it and on Facebook and things of that nature. And that's kind of how I think we've gotten most of our information about this tragedy that's unfolded in the Northeast today at the Boston Marathon. But we were talking before the show about how these sort of events we can learn about them more from Twitter, and we can kind of figure out what's going on. But Twitter, unfortunately, is built for hasty reaction, and it's a forum for a lot of people who can share a lot of ideas about whatever is on their mind. Unfortunately, sometimes those ideas can get out and spread. And I understand that it's a free country and everybody has their right to say what they want, but it's events like these where sometimes voices come out that maybe would have been better off not being heard. And I think that as I was scrolling through my timeline today, that there were some ideas that I saw being posted out there that I thought was unfortunate. Had people saying that particular groups were responsible for this attack, and we don't know who's responsible. Most I know, nobody has found anyone claiming responsibility for this attack, domestic or foreign. So there's really no way to know right now who was responsible for this. And frankly, it shouldn't matter who is responsible for this. Nationality doesn't matter in this case. It doesn't matter where this person's from or this group of people. It doesn't matter where they're from, what they practice, how they dress. None of that matters. Because if this was a calculated attack carried out, which it looks like it clearly was, then no matter who carried it out and where they're from or what they believe or what they practice, they are a terrorist by the very definition of what they've done. That whomever carries out a bombing, shooting, violence in a way that is made to create panic and to create fear and to injure and to harm people is a terrorist. And it doesn't matter if they're from North Korea, if they're from Iran, if they're from Madagascar or Australia or China or Paris or England or from Nebraska or New York or Texas. It's terrorism. And terrorism is not confined to one group or to one race or to one creed or to one nationality. And I feel like in this country, a lot of times we tend to believe that terrorism is a particular group's problem, and it's not. The people that flew planes into the Twin Towers on 9/11 were terrorists. Timothy McVeigh was a terrorist. Eric Rudolph was a terrorist. The shoe bomber, terrorist. It's not, you can't contain it to one group. And I feel like a lot of people, when there's a tragedy like this, and when we don't know who is responsible or what is the reason for it, people tend to go to what they know. And a lot of people in my generation, what they know in terms of attacks, unfortunately, we don't know a whole lot about terrorist attacks because before today, my generation has only really gone through one that we really remember that really made a huge impact on us, on our lives, and that was 9/11. But that's what we know. And what we know is where those people were from and what they did and what they believed and what they practiced. And it's unfortunate because then when you have situations like today, a lot of people assume that they know who is responsible. They don't. We don't know who's responsible. The Boston police don't know who's responsible, and they're there. We're here. We're sitting in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, in the Southeast. We don't know who's responsible for this. But one thing that's not going to fix anything is singling out groups and saying, well, it's these people, it's this country, it's this religion. It's not. There are people in every country on this planet who commit terrible, heinous, unspeakable crimes. There are people in this country who do that on a daily basis. Doesn't make the U.S. a bad country. People do it in Canada, in Mexico, in Guam. It happens all over. And no matter who is responsible for this, the goal of terrorism is to create a sense of uneasiness, a sense of lingering fear, and a sense of worry about day-to-day life. And so my response to all of this is that, obviously people who have lost their loved ones, and right now I think there are 3 confirmed dead, 130-something injured, and that's what we know about. That number, unfortunately, could grow in the next hours and days. But my response to this, and I hope that your response and the response of the people in Boston to this is that I'm not going to be scared, because ultimately this attack happened. It wasn't a dream. It happened. This is the world we live in. But nothing is going to be solved by us sitting in our rooms, in the fetal position and worrying. That's not going to. You lose. We lose. We, as a free, independent people in this country, lose if we do that. So, obviously, I'm very blessed in that I've never lost a loved one in a terrorist attack. I pray that I never do. But for those that have, I can't imagine what they're going through. But my prayer for them is that once the initial shock and grief begins to subside, that they will go back to work, that they will go back out to dinner, that they will go run the Boston Marathon again next year. I hope next year the Boston Marathon has 40,000 people in it, because the Twin Towers got brought down and we're still building skyscrapers. We're still flying on airplanes. Despite the huge numbers of people that this country lost that day, and that countries around the world lost that day, it's my belief that by doing those things and continuing to do them, that we've won. If you don't allow these people, these terrorists, wherever they're from, if you don't allow them to control you, then they lose. They lose. Whether you catch them or not, they lose. So my hope is that for everyone that was involved, for everyone that's up in the New England area, for everybody that's down here, in South Carolina or wherever you may be listening, that you don't cancel your tickets to the Braves game that you bought in 2 weeks because you're scared a bomb's going to go off. That you don't worry about going to the theater next month because you're worried some nut job might show up. That, damn it, you run the Boston Marathon next year. Because if we alter the way we live and we worry and we're afraid, then we've lost. And I believe that we cannot lose if we continue to live. So, again, my heart and prayers go out to everybody in Boston and everybody that was involved in this, to all the law enforcement who, if you've seen the videos, those guys were just amazing today. They really were. And they're going to continue to be amazing for a while, because this is not something that's going to be fixed by tonight. But I pray that they will grieve, that they will mourn, that they will cry or laugh or whatever they need to do to get through this tragedy. And then that whether it's a week from now, a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, that they'll go back to living. Because if you do that, then we're not going to lose. If you go back to living, then we're not going to lose. So our thoughts and prayers go to you guys, and we hope that everybody up there is okay, and that you will you'll go back to your normal life sooner rather than later.